All right, on this episode of the LPDS, we get into the previous 4th of July holiday, Independence Day, how that went. We got to give some Yankees updates, of course. We talk about my upcoming Chicago trip. I'll get into that into the Junction a little bit. And, of course, we got a nice little Cage fact. So all that's coming up right now. All right, Jabronis, we're back. Welcome back to the Libretti Podcast Diary Show. I'm your host, Libretti, the show that talks about nothing but finds the lessons and everything, and we try to have a good time doing it. Hope everybody had a good week. It was a holiday week, Independence Day. I know, this comes out the week after, so everybody's already finished with their holiday hangovers, and you're already back to work. Hopefully happy at work. Most people aren't, unfortunately, but hopefully you guys are, some of you are happy at work. Back after, getting back after it. But it was a pretty good holiday for me. Now, I will say this. I did, I talked about it a little bit with a Spearhead Leadership reel I made. There are an awful lot of organizations that did not give their people Friday, 5 July off from work. That to me is unsatisfactory here in America. Absolutely unsatisfactory. I understand the mindset where it's coming from, because on paper, it's only now you're only off 4 days that work week. You're only off 1 day instead of 2 days, so you're working 4 days. Excuse me, 4 days of work as opposed to 3 days. So that way we can squeeze as much as possible out of these people, out of these cogs in the wheel, so we can make our profits. Now, here's the thing with that. In reality, that's not the case. And I'm not just saying that from personal experience. I'm not saying that because we're lazy as a people. It's just not the case, though. Just from a productivity standpoint, if you take in all the factors, let's go through a holiday week. Just any holiday week, especially one like now where the holiday's on a Thursday. And then there's another, there's Friday and then the weekend. Okay. Monday and Tuesday, you're going to get, Monday you'll get, let's be generous and call it 80 to 90% effort and productivity. That's very generous on a Monday, because Mondays stink to begin with. Okay. Most of the time on Mondays, people are slow to get back up and running from the weekend. So, like I said, generously, 80 to 90% effectiveness. Tuesday, you'll get your highest level of effectiveness when it comes to work and productivity from the people on your team or that you work with. Wednesday of the holiday week, and this is true for Thanksgiving too as well. Wednesday is almost a full wash. Most organizations, at least when I was in the military, a lot of times we did stuff like this at the units I was with. Wednesday afternoon was dick around time. Maybe you had a potluck. I never participated in the potlucks. Maybe I brought napkins, but potlucks are stupid. I think I've talked about potlucks before many a times. The potlucks are stupid. Don't do potlucks in your office. Unless each person individually voluntarily comes up and says, "Hey, I want to bring some food in," and somebody else says, "Oh, I want to bring some food in too," and that's the only way. That's in a potluck utopia, that's the only way it could work, where people all happen to want to make and bring in food for the team on the same day. Otherwise, potlucks become one usually annoying team member, peer, coworker that either wants credit for an idea, wants to look like a teacher's pet, or just wants the attention of being able to say, "I led this potluck. I lead things. I'm a go-getter," or whatever. And they come up with the idea for a potluck. Let's do a potluck. And then from there, they take that as their opportunity to be Mr. Micromanaging boss person on everybody else and tell them, "Hey, you're going to bring in this. You're going to bring in chicken salad. You're going to make some quiche. You're going to do this. You're going to make a queso dip. You're going to bring in the utensils. You're going to help with cleanup, this and that." And they just start assigning things that nobody wants to do. And then they go home, they either half-ass make the stuff, or they dump it on their poor spouse to do it for them. And it's like, no, nobody wants to do it. And then you have people all at this potluck resenting the fact that the potluck's going on. And what ends up happening? You have the same people in everybody's office that don't contribute anything to the workplace whatsoever, and they're the ones chowing down like crazy, like they don't get any food at home. Everybody's miserable. You got to put on a fake smile. And then, Beatrice over there is riding high that she got to lead this potluck, and she could put it on her evaluation for the year. Led and organized and honchoed 15 potlucks this year. Meanwhile, everybody hates her for it. So anyway, Wednesdays are usually the potluck day for a holiday week, if you have one. A lot of times, like on Thanksgiving, if you even think about offering up a potluck on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which is a big food holiday, if it was my friend who's a coworker, I'd slap him. And be like, "Dude, what are you doing? We have Thanksgiving. Our families are making tons of food already. We don't want to make additional food the day before. That's crazy." So usually it's like lunch. Maybe if your organization is, pretends to be generous, they'll bring, they'll buy food, pizza party. That's your promotion for the year. That's your raise for the year, is you get the holiday pizza party. And then after lunchtime, it's a wash. If people are even sitting in the office, it's a wash. If you're working at home, certainly you're not getting much done. You're clocking your hours, and that's about it. Just to give a quick heads up, folks, same video issues. I don't know what the problem is in YouTube land with the video freezing. There's no errors. There's no disconnections. I don't know why it's happening, but it's happening. So I apologize. And if it freezes up, that's the last time I'm going to mention. I'm not even going to pay attention anymore. So that's that. Anyway, then Thursday's the holiday. Okay. So now you realistically have 2-ish days of actual productivity in the workplace between Monday, Tuesday, and half of Wednesday, because you're not really productive much of the time, Monday, and certainly not on Wednesday. And now think about coming back Friday after a holiday, Independence Day, no less, an all-day beach holiday, boat day, fireworks, bonfires, drinking all day, doing cornhole, drinking Nooners, Jello shots, beer funnels, the whole nine. And then the next day you got to come into work after that, hungover. By the time your hangover goes away, if it goes away that day, the day is basically done. So you're just sitting in a cubicle surviving, drinking Pedialyte and other sugary drinks to hydrate and get your electrolytes back. by the way, if you really want to get your electrolytes back. Water with a little salt in it or watermelon water. That'll change your life. Some grocery stores sell it as is. You can also make it yourself. It's tremendous. Anyway, that's your Friday workday. 2 hours of consciousness, and then it's the weekend. Why are you making people show up for work? Even if it's work from home, why are you making people log in and show up for work? It doesn't make any sense. They do it on the government contractor side too, which is even funnier because if you're a government contractor, most government facilities are off that Friday also. 2 days off most of the time. A lot of them are anyway. So you're showing up to an office that doesn't have anybody else in there if you're the government contractor. You're just sitting there doing nothing. But you have to because your company is open, so you have to show up. Doesn't make sense to me. You're not getting anything out of them but resentment for having to show up for 1 day. There's no productivity. If you're talking about you wanting to be productive and then also valuing the team and letting them know that you care about them so that you can actually get long-term success from them, give them the day off. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous on big holidays like that. Now, if it's Flag Day or a smaller holiday, right now, Juneteenth is not the biggest holiday. So a lot of times you just get that day off and the day after or the day before, you're still working. Maybe that'll get bigger later on. Columbus Day, you're only getting 1 day. Got it. 4th of July, come on. Give them that second day. It's not hurting your bottom line. If anything, it's costing you money to keep the lights on in the office that day. Or having to pay people extra if they do get any work done, if they get commissions and stuff like that. Give them the day off. Let them rest. They'll thank you for it. You'll thank yourself for it in the long run because the little things like that are what keeps your talent around, builds your relationship with people, and they feel more value. Like, oh, this guy understands that I'm going to be a nothing loser this day, and he's letting us have it off. Give me a break. Give them the day off. That's crazy. Anyway, I hope everybody had a good Independence Day. I spent the day doing whatever I wanted. It was nice. I got a little tanning in outside with Randy. I got a workout in. I worked on some spearhead stuff while I was watching TV. I did not watch any baseball because the Yankees stink. We'll get into that in a second here. And then I watched the movie The Retirement Plan, which is a 2023 movie with Nic Cage. We talked about that on this show before. Good movie. Good action. Fun. Nothing, not award-winning movie, but a good, fun action movie with some killing and shooting and some other action. So you should go check that one out. Anyway, that's what I did on my Independence Day. It was fun. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves like I did and actually took some time to relax and enjoy the holiday. Now, moving on. The Yankees. I'm not going to belabor this. I'm going to try not to belabor this, but they stink. They are who we thought they were. Okay? Go back to the offseason. Go back to the beginning of spring training. Go back to the beginning of this season. We've been saying the same thing. Don't let them fool you. They're not playoff competitive yet. They're too reliant on only a couple of good players. And this is what we're getting now. Everybody was playing above their weight class, above their expectations, and now they come back down to reality, and this is what you get. They've lost, at the time of this recording, they've lost 14 of the last 19 games. That stinks. They're 5-14. That's a stinky team. And it's not all against good teams. It started with good teams. That kind of exposed them, or people thought for whatever reason, a lot of analysts and fans thought, oh, this is a fluke. They're playing a good team, so that's all. It's just a fluke. And then they started losing to the stinky teams right after, and they're like, oh, crap. What do we do now? How do we spin zone this? And it's just frustrating. And the team is clearly frustrated too. They're making more mistakes. They're showing signs of laziness, attitudes, people getting mad at each other. It's a tough time. I get it. I hope they can bounce back. I think this team does have the attitude and the mindset to bounce back from these hard times. Do I still think they're skill-wise playoff competitive? No. They need to make moves before the trade deadline still. A lot of moves. But they got a good attitude. Hopefully this hardship and these hurdles don't collapse them like they've done in the past. And hopefully their manager, Aaron Boone, can light a fire under their asses and provide some leadership and help lead them through this. Or they can hire a leadership consultant to help them through this as well. I'm going to email them. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, they've been a really tough to watch lately. Really tough to watch, even though we saw it coming. And I don't want to hear it from the diehard, blindly loyal fans or the analysts who get paid by the Yankees who have to say nothing but good things and are still pushing the narrative of like, I'm shocked that they're doing this bad. This is a dominating team and this and that. You're lying to yourself or you're a dope. You're either lying to yourself because you don't want to admit the truth, or you're just a dope and actually believe that they're a good team, like a dominant team. They're a good team. They're not a great team. They're not a dominant team. They're not a playoff competitive team just yet. Stop fooling yourselves. And I'm a Yankee fan, and it probably doesn't sound like it because I bitch about them week in and week out, but I love them. I want them to do well, and I think they're a better team than last year. They're not a terrible team. They got a great attitude. They got some better guys out there. They can be good. They had the potential to be good. Their GM is not helping them. It's not it's not really the players' fault per se. Most of them are playing up to their capacity. They're just not as good as the GM has been pushing it out there to everybody. And I think he knows that too. I think that's what really the problem is because it's all part of his little scheme to sneak into the playoffs with a 500 record because it guarantees a playoff berth, which means more money for the program, and it shuts the fans up enough to say, hey, we made the playoffs again, so we're trying, even though they're not really. All they're trying to do is be good enough to shut the fans up and to keep raking in the cash in the short term. I'm waiting for the Yankee fans to wake up and realize that it's a GM that's doing this. And Hal Steinbrenner, too, a little bit, because he's letting it happen as the owner. We got to wake up. We got to push back. It's not the players' fault. They're trying. Some of them are just not that good. Austin Wells stinks. I like the guy a lot. DJ LeMahieu stinks. He went from being the best hitter in the league several years in a row to being almost, if not worse. Now he's almost as bad as Joey Gallo. Nobody can be as bad as Joey Gallo right now. But holy cow, does he stink. They got to figure it out. I'm hoping for some W's, start stringing along wins, get the attitude back, get the clubhouse back up and running in the positive direction, power through this, and let's see what they can do. So make some moves before the trade deadline. That'll help. That they need to do that. Anyway, if you want real, more objective Yankees updates, let me know. Hit the hotline 202-670-1114, and we'll get the creature on here because he's way smarter on the Yankees and baseball in general than I am. So that's that. All right, let's keep rolling through here and get to the good stuff. Step into the cage.
Okay, let's run.
All right, today's Into the Cage segment is proudly sponsored by the Portable AC Fan by Tony Rigatoni. It's summertime, folks, and you know what that means. hot days and sweaty perineums. And for some of you who can't afford central AC or even vehicle AC, you could be in real trouble. But not anymore with a portable AC fan by Tony Riggs. Tony understands the need for cool air and comfort for the people, and he also understands the hardships of poverty. That's why he created this all-new, single-person portable AC fan, a large pinwheel carried and blown on by an unofficial Tony Riggs employee. So it not only cools you down whenever you, it not only cools you down wherever you go, but also employs able-bodied bums looking for some extra cash. All you have to do is send a message to Tony's pager, and you'll have a new portable AC fan and a blower to follow you around wherever you go in no time. So to get yours today, page 1-800-BLOW-ME, and if you use the promo code WARMMIST, you'll get 29% off your portable AC fan. My neighbor just told me that his vehicle AC went out, and he's calling a guy now to try to get it fixed. I slipped him the phone number, Tony Riggs, in case this AC guy can't get the job done. It's hot down here in Texas, folks. Mid to high 90s every day. Periodic rain. It's not a lot right now, the past week or so. Supposedly having a hurricane soon. By the time this posts, the hurricane will have come and gone. And hopefully it's not too bad, but hopefully it brings a little rain because I got to get my tomatoes and peppers watered. I also got to get some fungicide on there so they don't get fungus on the leaves. I heard baking soda. Everyone's used to say baking soda and water works, but I've read lately that it's not as effective. So I got to find some better non-toxic ways to get that done. But yeah, portable AC fan. No brainer. Cash only. Do it. All right. The Cage fact. This is more like a Cage update than a fact. Excuse me. But the final trailer for the movie Longlegs has come out. Now, the reason I'm talking about this so much, not just because I like Nic Cage, but because it's being so highly reviewed right now. So the final trailer came out, and once again, it only gives you a small taste of Cage, just a tiny little taster of Nic Cage's character in it, Longlegs. You hear his voice, which is a very different voice. It's not a Nic Cage voice. And then at the very end, they show a quick, maybe 1 second clip of him. Maybe 1 second, probably less. Right at the end of the final trailer. And multiple critics and reviewers and people in the industry are calling it the best horror thriller movie, whatever you want to call it, crime thriller serial killer movie since Silence of the Lambs. They're putting it on that caliber, at that caliber of serial killer movies. I don't even know what genre is this movie? What genre was Silence of the Lambs? It's that one. It looks crazy. I can't wait for it to come out July 12th. So by the time this episode posts, the same week, it'll be out this week. So I can't wait. I might go to the theaters by myself. I'll see if the creature wants to go. He's probably working. And also, I don't know if he likes Nic Cage as much as I do, which is fine. There's no judgment there. You like what you like. But I'm excited for that. Very excited for that to come out. I hope I hope they don't screw with us and only put in select theaters. It's got to go worldwide or nationwide at the very least. So anyway, that's the Cage fact. Moving on over to the Junction. We'll spin the logo up. This is a shorter one because I'm recording this earlier because going to Chicago. We'll get into that in a second here. But there wasn't enough time. I didn't get any hotline calls, which is, again, fine. I love hotline calls, but I'm certainly not going to go texting people and be like, hey, call the hotline. Hey, call the hotline. Help a brother out. No, whatever. If you remember, cool. 202-670-1114. If you forget, fine. You guys, people have lives. Okay? People have lives, and there's also not 100,000 people watching this at any given time or listening to this. So obviously the numbers for the hotline are going to be sporadic. So we don't have any hotline calls this week. I did get some text message updates from the hotline to the hotline number from a couple of fans. I'll keep their names out of this, but they were updating me on their fitness journeys, health and wellness journeys, and everybody's making the progress, which I like to see. So that's been awesome. And if you're going through your own health and wellness journey of any kind, whether it's hitting the gym more, dieting, going to therapy, working on the mental and emotional side of health, and you're looking for an accountability buddy, let me know. Hit me up on the hotline. You can send a text or leave a voicemail. I don't get the notifications live or whatever. Like, I don't have notifications set active on my phone. So when I see them, I'll get to them. So if I'm delayed in replying to you, that's why. I'm not certainly not ignoring anybody. But if you do want accountability buddy, you want to just talk about it, feel free to hit up the hotline 202-670-1114. Now, one of the things I did, I forgot to mention it earlier. I didn't just watch the retirement plan on Independence Day. I also watched Independence Day. I just got done with, I did a workout and some tanning before that. And between that and while I was doing some spearhead stuff, I had to pop it on. I think it was on Hulu, actually, which was clutch because I think I only have a VHS of Independence Day still, so it would have been tough to watch that. But I popped it on, and I was, most people have seen Independence Day, and it got me thinking about this movie's renderings of what they think what aliens look like, what they think aliens look like, and their spaceships and this and that. Now, I don't want to get too into the weeds about like the language barrier and all the other things that you can nitpick about communicating with extraterrestrials and stuff like that. But I just thought it was interesting. First, not to get tinfoil hatty, but I remember what Tom DeLonge of Blink-182 said on Joe Rogan's podcast several years ago. Tom DeLonge also has his own website about conspiracies and aliens. He said he said the government hired him to release information about aliens, to have Hollywood do it and the music industry do it so that it gets us, what is the word I'm thinking of? Damn it. Desensitized to it or get, if you put it out in tiny little amounts as opposed to just blowing the lid off the whole thing, we'll be able to handle a little bit better. I don't know if I don't believe that, honestly. It makes complete sense that they would do something like that. And I do believe there is extraterrestrial activity going on in this universe. And who knows if they're doing that. The Tom DeLonge episode from years ago is wild. He says a lot of crazy things, but he also says a lot of things that actually came to fruition too, which is also crazy in its own right. But one of the things he said was they put it in Hollywood movies. So at first, I thought, I wonder if this is what they actually do look like, the aliens, because it's coming from a Hollywood movie. But then I tried to take the tinfoil hat off, and so I had to pause the episode because I had a call. That was an important call, and not just Nikki Sticks telling me about what a mover and shaker he is. So I apologize for that. What were we talking about? Aliens and renderings and this and that. So anyway, I tried to remove the tinfoil hat mindset under the, and pretended that I don't think that we have extraterrestrials out there or encounters and other weird stuff. And I was trying to think back to all the other movies in history in Hollywood that have had aliens in them, what they looked like, and then the drawings and this and that. And where did the design, the original design, come from? That's what I don't, because the Independence Day aliens are vastly different from ET and from the original like hieroglyphics you saw, in the pyramids in Egypt and some other ancient ruins. What it's where the standard rendering is big head, big ovalish type eyes, long fingies, not very tall, and strange in that regard. No noses, no peepees. And I was trying to think back, who was the first person to come up with that design, that idea of like, if there's something else in this universe that's a living being, and this is what I think it might look like. Now I know obviously the theory is they drew them like that because that's what they look like, because they came down and saw these people, and then these people drew this, and that's what it is. And then as time went on, either more people saw them or they just adopted that look from the previous storytellers who said that they saw them. So again, in my little conspiracy stupor that I had myself in watching this movie, I was thinking, why wouldn't movies like Independence Day and Aliens make their alien rendering more like that? Or maybe they did. Maybe they made it just enough again to show you, because you saw that they were taller and they had tentacles, but they still had the weird kind of eyes, not really any nose, no clothes of any kind. So maybe they were sort of like just taking just evolving the view of what aliens actually look like. So again, we're not getting fire hosed aliens. They're just stair stepping. I can't think of the phrase that we use, not wean us onto it, but somebody's going to hit me in the comments, whether or send me a text later on and be like, you stupid idiot, it's this. They're listening right now. They're screaming at their radio or their computer screen and saying, it's this word, it's this phrase, you moron. So thank you for that, for helping me out there if you do send me a text. But they're getting us used to it, and this is the evolution of that. It was guys dressed in weird suits like back in the 50s and 60s when they were aliens, and then it was stuff like E.T., a little bit different, and then the movie Alien was very different, and then Independence Day, and then further on there's more different versions of extraterrestrial beings. And it's also kind of playing into the idea that there's more than one species of extraterrestrial being out there in the universe, just like there's more than one species of animal here on Earth. They're really just opening our eyes and prepping us accordingly for the tinfoil fact that there's, the existence of extraterrestrials and other beings out there and species exists, and the government knows all about it. And they're using Tom DeLonge and Randy Quaid and Bill Pullman to tell us about it. Anyway, great. It's a good movie. It still plays. I haven't seen the second one. I have no desire to see the second one. I hate that they made a second one. I am one of those guys that, like, as soon as I hear there's a sequel coming out or a number 2, even if it's separate, or a remake 20 years later, I'm off it. They're doing it with Twister now, too. Bill Paxton, Twister. Philip Seymour Hoffman, Twister. Helen Hunt, the chick from Jersey Girl, and also the sex hotline girlfriend from Seinfeld. That Twister. Why are you doing that? And guess who's in it? The star of Twisters is that good-looking fellow who is also in the Top Gun sequel, who played the new age version of Iceman. Chiseled body, dimple in his chin, just a real hunky guy. I forgot his name. He's in a bunch of stuff now. He's blowing up right now. He's the guy who they thought was doing stuff with that other actress from the movie. What was her name? I forgot. I don't know. Sydney Sweeney. That guy. They thought they were on the movie set together, and I thought they were doing some fishy stuff together. And now they're doing a Twister remake. So I didn't watch the new Independence Day. I have no desire to. I can't believe anybody from the original agreed to do it. You can't be hurting for money that much. And the storyline couldn't have possibly been that good. And I know that's the case because nobody talks about Independence Day 2. Nobody talks about it. Now, I get it. I know what Hollywood's trying to do. They're just trying to make money. And they know there is a new generation of people out there who were not born when Independence Day came out. So they're just going to make a new one so that that's what their kids can like. I like this Independence Day, and this is my life-changing alien movie. Except it was a dud. Because it was too close in proximity to the original Independence Day. If you're going to remake a movie, there should be a time limit. 50 years. 45 to 50 years. And then you could do it. Mr. Deeds is a perfect example. Nobody knew that the Adam Sandler movie, Mr. Deeds, already was created back in like the 50s or something like that. And he created it in the 2000s. Do that. And it was obviously it was a different version. It was a new age version of Deeds. You can't go this close. Less than 20 years. Is that what it was? 20 years. The people who grew up on Independence Day are still alive and kicking and young enough to still be the people going to the movies all the time. Anyway, aliens are real. They could look like Independence Day aliens. They could look like ET aliens. They could look like the hieroglyphic aliens. Who knows just yet? But they're out there. Anyway, Chicago trip. I recorded this episode early because Creature and I are headed up to Chicago. Well, the trip will be over by the time you hear this. We went to Chicago to go visit our brother, Bonji, because that's where he lives and works right now, and we're going to have a good time. Now, the plan is there's no set schedule. The plan is to hit different types of food up in Chicago to get their version of that style food. That's the real main goal. And then I think we're gonna try to go do a Cubs game on Sunday when this posts. So maybe we'll be at a Cubs game. But I'm telling you all this now so that when we return from the trip, I can let you know what we actually accomplished and what we missed out on. And you can, you can go on the journey with us. I might bring some stuff to record out there, but that was another reason why I recorded this episode early, because I didn't want to put any sort of pressure on myself to get an episode out in time for the people. And I didn't want to put any pressure on our trip. The Creature and Bonji, I don't want them to feel like they're obligated to record at any given time just because I have this hobby. It's my hobby. If they want to do it, like I said, I have the stuff. We can record. Maybe have a few pops. Otherwise, it does take a lot of time. Okay? It's several hours to set the stuff up, test everything out, make sure the mics work, the camera catches everybody, and then we actually go and do the do. So that's not what we're up there for. We're up there to have a good time with each other, catch up with good friends, with brothers, and to go check out different food spots. So like I said, I don't want to hinder those goals of having a good time. Now, I always have a good time recording with my best friends, obviously. I think they have it's just as good a time. But when you make people feel obligated, whether you do it on purpose or not, it takes away that fun. It takes away that funnel, even just a little bit. And so I don't want to do that. But for the trip, we're trying to hit and I'm going to miss some of this stuff because I didn't write it down, but I think the creature did. We want to get deep dish pizza. Number one, I don't want to go to like one of the big names that's a tourist trap. Like in the Philly cheesesteak game, Pat's and Geno's are the two places. Oh, those are the two best. Those are tourist spots. If you live in Philly and you're a Philly person, a Philly native, or you grew up in Philly, you know that I think it's Angelo's. Don't quote me, but there's another place that is the best cheesesteak in Philly. It's not Pat's or Geno's. That became a story, a legend of them fighting because they work across the street from each other, and they're not as good as this other place. I thought it was called Angelo's. Like I said, don't quote me. You have to ask the Philly scumbags, which I say endearingly because I think Philly scumbags are awesome. They'll know the answer to that. So in Chicago, they had that same thing sort of with the deep dish. I think they sort of had the same thing with the Chicago dog in the hot dog community. Because I know there's two places in Chicago right next to each other that are all about the hot dog game. And they've been fighting like the Geno's and Pat's cheesesteak. How you doing? So what we don't want to do is we don't want to go to a place that you Google best deep dish in Chicago and it pops up whatever Giordano's or Malnati's or whatever the names are. I'm just saying those. I don't know if that's the case or not. But then you go there and it's like, oh, this is where tourists go. If you really want the best deep dish, you got to go to the OG Pizzeria Uno. You got to go to this place. You got to go to this place. That's where the locals go for the best deep dish. So we want to do that. There is a big Italian community in Chicago still. So they have Italian restaurants. They have Italian sub shops. So we want to hit those. There's the Chicago hot dogs. That's not just a hot dog and a bun, but it's a whole experience. We want to try to hit that. There's the Italian beef sandwich game in town. So we want to try to hit that. There's also a couple of places that apparently make really legitimate cheeseburgers. So we're going to try to hit that. Now, if time allows, if we're able to do it, I would love to hit one of the diners in Chicago because they have a pretty good diner scene that's slightly different from, other regional areas where they have a big diner scenes like New York, New Jersey, and what have you. But I'm a diner guy. I also know that, though, in the diner game, it's not really about the food. It's about the atmosphere. The food is going to be pretty standard. Bacon, eggs, pancakes, waffles, whatever. There's not going to be a diner out there that says, like, you have to go get this meal at this diner. It's the best around. Diner food is basically diner food. There is some slight, highs and lows and rankings when it comes to the caliber of food there, but diner food is basically diner food. It's always pretty good, at least pretty good. So I don't want to waste a meal on stuff that I know I can get just as good down here in Texas or back home in Jersey or whatever. But I'm a diner guy, so if we happen to pass a diner and we're hungry for breakfast or at the time or whatever, maybe we stop by in one. But it's not on the list. We have to try to get it. Deep dish is probably my tops, followed by the Italian subs, hot beef, like those things. Like you're not going to get an Italian hot beef sandwich down here in Texas. You're just not. You're not going to get a good deep dish down here in Texas. And I want to try a good a legitimate deep dish, not a Pizza Hut deep dish. So I don't know if I'm missing anything else as far as the food goes. I'm trying to think. Like I said, the creature, he's the one who's been doing the research on it. He's the go-to guy for our food stops. And then of course, our brother Bonji, who's living up there, also knows some good spots as well. So we'll give it a shot. We're also going to a Cubs game, or we will have gone to a Cubs game, really just to check the box. I only want to go because I'm a baseball fan and I want to hit all the MLB stadiums in my lifetime. But as you know, or as I've made everyone aware of the past, I couldn't care less about the Cubs. And I hate when people say, "Oh, well, at least you got to go to Wrigley. It's so rich in history." The only two things that it's got history on. The one real thing, though, the only real thing that should be validated, and I'll validate as the only real thing, is that it's one of two original stadiums in the Major League Baseball, MLB, the MLB. That's what I meant to say. It's Wrigley Field and it's Fenway Park. Every other stadium, every other team, they have a new stadium or a different one from the original. Those are the only two teams in MLB history that are playing at the original stadium when the team started. So that is the only thing, that's the only history I care for and want to be a part of, want to experience. Otherwise, my only reason for going is because it's an MLB stadium. I'm trying to hit every single MLB stadium in my life. That's one of them. Got to do it. But there's no other rich history in Cubs lore. They've sucked for over a century. And they came back and were good for 1 year just to win a World Series, and then they suck again now. So I don't care about that. There's zero history that I care about when it comes to a team that's got a history of being a loser. And I hate when people say, "Oh, you got to go to Wrigley. It's so rich in history." No, it's not. It's an old ass stadium. I like that. I like old ass antique shit to check out. Maybe there's some cool ghost stories there that I don't know about. Maybe I'll learn about that. Otherwise, it's just to knock it off the list of stadiums to go to. That's it. And we already said, like, we don't care if we're only there for 2 or 3 innings. We just want to go there. It's baseball. It's the Cubs versus the Angels. 2 abysmal teams that I have zero interest in watching. And I love baseball. But I'd rather watch minor leagues. I'd rather watch high school and college teams because they care a lot more. They try a lot harder. Minor leagues tries harder because they're trying to make the big leagues. College tries harder because they're trying to win a national championship, get more scholarship money for the next year, get drafted. High school, the same thing, trying to get scholarships to college, trying to get drafted. They care more. Major leagues, they're already there. And when your team stinks and you're mid-season, they don't give a crap about this game. If any of them loses this game, you won't see one bit of emotion from anybody on those teams. Plus, they both stink. So, no interest in watching the game. We're checking the box. I don't even know if I'm going to get food there because I want to save room for the deep dish, for all the food we're trying to eat. And let me tell you something about these Chicago food spots. They're all heavy. All these meals are dense. It's not like a thin New York slice. You could slide a couple of New York slices of pizza down and move on to another place. These are dense, heavy meals. So we're going to be doing a working out in the morning and then hitting the road to finding spots, maybe sneaking in a little snoozer here and there. I don't know how we're going to be able to survive. Well, I know those 2 guys will survive. I don't know how I'm going to be able to survive. I'm just a little guy, and it takes me forever to eat to begin with. But we're gonna do what we can to make it happen. So I talk about this now as like a prediction of the future because again, this episode posted after we got back after we were on the trip. But now it's out there so that when I come back, we could talk about what we actually were able to accomplish. And then I'm sure we'll have some good stories as well that I can regale you with, and some lessons learned about the streets of Chicago. So I'm excited for this. I can't pretend to be excited that we came back. Like I can't lie and do a whole episode saying we got back from the trip. Here's what we did, even though we didn't do it yet. So that's why I'm not doing that. I'm not acting out what it would be like after the trip is over and after we do all this stuff and all I'm just going to let it happen. I'm going to be late with it. We're going to be 2 weeks. We're always delayed here, unfortunately, on the LPDS when it comes to stuff like this and current events. We're always going to be at least a few days behind. This is not a daily show. This is not a live performance. So you guys understand. I don't know why I'm explaining this to the diehards, to the ride or dies. You're the ones listening every day. You get it. You get me. So I am excited for this trip, though. I'm excited to not have to work and to have no real agenda as far as schedule and timing. We have to be here by this time and this time. Just be able to hang with the fellas, hanging with the boys. So it's going to be great. And I'll keep you posted on how that goes. And that's all I got for today, folks. Before we go, very quickly, the big three pillars to staying strong and being a better, happier, healthier, kinder, more genuine human being and spreading that goodness, positivity to everybody around you. Number one, exercise every day. Do something every day to exercise physically, mentally, or emotionally to be more physically, mentally, or emotionally fit and healthy. Number two, the hardest one to do, don't be a shitty person, be a kind person. When your negative emotions are arising and the opportunity arises to be a shitty, negative person, even if it's in response to somebody being shitty and negative, take the LPDS step back, detach from those negative emotions, and go focus on something more positive, productive to do in your life. That way, you're minimizing the negativity going on in the world and the anger and vitriol and other big buzzwords that mean negative stuff. And you're allowing yourself the capacity and space to focus on more positive, productive things. And that helps your brain, too. That helps your mental game, your mental health and wellness and fitness. Because when you are living in the negative, that takes a toll on you. If your brain is constantly in the negative, it sends those signals down to the rest of your body and existence, and you spiral into the negative further in all aspects of your life. The same can be said for the positive and productive. If your brain is living in the positive and the productive focus mindset, it'll send those signals down to your body. So it just makes sense. Don't be a shitty person. Be a kind person. Number three, the most important one, be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives. And it's very easy for us to take all those things for granted because we wake up every day and our house is still there. The roof is still over our head. The toilet still works. The food's still there on the table. All the first world amenities of America are still around. And it's very easy to take things for granted. But take the time each day, at least once a day, to think about the good things and people you have in your lives. And then legitimately think about what your life would be like without those things and how much shittier it would be. And that'll put you in a state of gratitude. Very quickly, several weeks ago when we had a storm here in Texas and the power was out. And I talked about how all the people, within an hour of the power being out, devolving into absolute chaos and uselessness when the power went out, hitting up the Ring doorbell, the neighborhood app, and crying about the power being out for an hour, and I don't know what to do. Could somebody help me? Tell me when the power's coming back on, blah, blah, blah. Because those people never take the time to sit down and think about the very real possibility of one day, randomly, with no rhyme or reason, no reason why, you don't have power in your house. You don't have internet, or you don't have hot water, you don't have running water. It could just happen for any reason whatsoever. This storm just happened to roll through. It wasn't a hurricane that anyone was tracking. It was just a bad storm that rolled through and knocked out the power to people. If you spend the time actively thinking about your life without the good things you have, you're going to be living in a state of gratitude. You're actually going to be thankful and feel something positive towards the good things you have in your lives, as opposed to sloughing them off and just assuming they're always going to be there. And you're also preparing yourself in the event those things are no longer there. You're not going to devolve into utter uselessness. You follow the big three. You follow these three things day in and day out. I promise you, you will become a better, happier, kinder, healthier, more genuine human being, and you'll be able to spread that positivity, that goodness to everybody around you and throughout the land. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, put on your push notifications, tell your friends and enemies, hit the hotline 202-670-1114. Call in with whatever you want. As long as it's not derogatory and it can be actually put on YouTube's and iTunes and Spotify's, we'll put it on. We'll answer the call. So 202-670-1114. Thank you guys again. I love you all. Stay strong.